We have a guest speaker, Richard Giordano, who's going to talk to us about some great learning strategies. Without further ado, Richard Giordano. There you are, sir.
I don't usually work with these things, so bear with me. The first thing I want to do is to express very sincerely and very affirmatively and very forcefully the fact that what I'm going to talk to you about today is additive, not supplantive. It is not intended in any way, shape, or form to change anything you're doing or to take the place of anything you're doing. I know there's a lot of experience in this room. In fact, collectively or individually, probably most of you have more experience working with athletes than I do. So I'm going to defer to you in many, many cases. What I want to give you today is an additional tool that you might be able to use while you're working with athletes. Okay, I'm a former educator. I've been in education for 25 years, and I've been in a lot of classrooms as a high school administrator watching what's going on. I need to define a term, because what I'm here to talk to you about today simply is crap. I want to talk to you about crap, and crap I define very simply, not in a vulgar context, but as silliness, absurdity, no foundation in reality, just nonsense. Now, most educators would tell you that that's what they want to get away from in learning context. What I want to tell you is that's what I think can be an extremely powerful heuristic in learning. So that's the kind of crap that I'm talking about. It's not very commonly used in education. Some of you, let me ask you a question. Usually this is the key. How many of you, somewhere along the lines of your educational experiences, have heard about Roy G. Biv? That's just crap, okay? Roy G. Biv is crap, and those of you who don't know, it's the color of the visible light spectrum when the sunlight is passed through a prism. It's all of the colors of the spectrum, okay? That's the kind of crap that is very powerful in remembering things, and that's what I want to talk about. Usually it's not used in education except serendipitously, like some of you may have seen it in the 4th or 5th or 6th grade, maybe junior high school. The one place that I know it is used, and it's used extensively and highly powerfully, is in the United States Memory Championships. Every year in this country, there's a memory championship wherein people come to compete by remembering stuff, just remembering stuff. And I should mention that for our purposes, remembering and learning is the same thing. I know there are some technical differences pedagogically, but for our purposes they're the same, because if you're acquainted with something and you can't remember it, that's all you were, is acquainted with it. You didn't learn it, okay? In memory championships, people sit down at a table and they are given a deck of cards. They uncover each card, 52 of them, and when they're done, they are called upon to repeat the exact order and nature of every card that they just did. They're given an unpublished poem of about 5 stanzas. They've never seen it before. It's a brand new poem. No one knows it. They have to repeat it verbatim. They're given 99 names and faces associated, and they're supposed to remember those. So that's the memory championship. And that's where crap is at its pinnacle. It's very, very powerful there. Now, there are 4 basic aspects of learning really good crap. And I'm going to give them to you. And first of all, I'm going to give you a story that will help you to put them in a context. And we'll talk a little bit about it afterwards. It's not my story. It's something that a woman related on the Jay Leno show. On a given evening, Jay Leno went down into the audience and he was asking if anyone would be willing to retell the details of the world's worst first date. And this woman stood up and Jay allowed her to speak. And I can't tell it as she did, but I'll give you the particulars. She said that she and a young man on their first date decided to go skiing. I think it was in Vermont. They went skiing in the later afternoon on into the evening, had a great day on the hills, went into the lodge, had nice dinner, drinks, etc., left the lodge, got in the car, started back, about a 3-hour trip back to where they were coming from. Very cold, had been a tremendous amount of snow, and they were about an hour and 20 minutes into the trip, and she realized, as she told it, that she was not going to be able to make it because those 3 coffee lattes she had were beginning to let her know that it was going to be a shorter trip in some respects than she would desire. And so there were no rest areas. It was a deserted road. She finally had to, reluctantly, but had to ask her date if he would kindly pull over to the side of the road so that she could go off into the woods and do what she needed to do. Well, he did, and she got out of the car and realized with the snow that the berms were so high that she wasn't going to be able to walk into the woods. There was no place to go. And so what she did is she asked her date to please eyes forward, and she went around on her side of the car, at the back of the car, extricated herself from her cumbersome ski gear, and proceeded to take care of what she had to do. Leaned back on the car to brace herself. Everything was fine. She started to put her clothes back on and was going to go back into the car, but she didn't, because what she realized, as you will realize, putting yourself in her position, is, well, the warmth of her bottom on the cold steel had firmly affixed her buttocks to the fender. And there she was. Well, her first thought was, what a hell of a way to impress her date, the first time they'd ever been out together. And then all of a sudden she realized, well, she needed to do something, and so she tried. But frankly, I guess the best way to say it is the more she tried, the more pain there was, and the more she realized if she continued to try, she was going to lose her ass, literally. So she decided that wasn't going to work. And so she reluctantly had to call forward to the gentleman and say what her predicament was, ask him to be as kind as he could. Although it was kind of funny, it wasn't that funny. So he came around the back, and she asked if he had any solution to the problem. And it wasn't long before they both realized that that's exactly what it was going to take, a solution, and a warm one. And so he had the same amount of coffee that she did, and there wasn't a lot of problem with doing what he had to do, as difficult as it was. So he did. And she was free. And so he went forward into the car, she redressed herself, and they completed their date. And Jay Leno asked her whatever happened to that young man, and she turned to her right, the man seated next to her, and says, well, he's been my husband for 25 years. And the audience, of course, applauded loudly. And that was the end of the story, except Jay Leno, for those of you who watch him, know that he can't let that go that easily. So he made one last comment, which was to suggest that this experience gave a whole new meaning to being pissed off. And that was the end of the story. Now, if you put yourself in the respective roles of those two people, you've experienced the 4 parts of making up crap. Now, this is ostensibly a true story. I don't know that it is, but it was told on Jay Leno's program. There are 4 parts to making up crap. The one that's quite apparent to you, and they may all be apparent, but the one that's quite apparent is the linguistic aspect. I told the story by virtue of words. And unfortunately, in learning and education, 85–90% or higher of everything you learn is brought to you in a linguistic context. You hear it or you read it. And it's not a very exciting way to learn, and it's not a very effective way to learn. The other 3 components are the real stuff of learning, and they are what you all experience. And there's not a person in this room that didn't have a strong visual image. As I was going through the story, every one of you pictured someone with their butt stuck to a steel fender in the middle of the winter, and it's very cold. In addition to that, you probably, if you're wired the way most people are, you could have a physical sensation of what that must be like trying to extricate yourself from that fender. You also had some emotional feelings about what the whole thing was like for both parties. There's a highly charged emotional context. The stuff that you learn is not the language. The stuff that you learn is couched in, supported by, embellished by the visual, the emotional, and the physical. That's how you learn. Now, if there's a way for you to wrap learning in those 3, minimize the language, wrap them in those 3, You're going to grab more information. The athletes all want to be bigger, faster, and stronger. When I was at Indiana University 2 years ago in the summer working with the incoming freshman football, they did a survey, and 3/4 of them wanted to be bigger, faster, stronger. This will make you able to get bigger quantities of information, to get it faster, and hold it more strongly over time. Over time. That's the key. And look, professors at this university and every other university are going to shovel a lot of crap at you. And maybe that's the same kind of stuff I'm talking about, but you know as well as I do, every one of you has to learn that stuff so that you can regurgitate it on some exam somewhere down the line. Sometimes it's just trivial stuff, but you can use this process to grab onto information and hold it very, very tightly, and you can do it quickly so that you can spend your real time working on the stuff you really need to spend time on. This is a way of getting rid of some of the stuff so that you really don't have to spend inordinate amounts of time rereading, repeating, yada, 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 okay? It's not used that very often in education, but it should be because it's powerful. Now I want to do a couple of things. I only have a half an hour. I want to give you a couple of object examples. Some of you may be doing this, but there's a tremendous amount you can be doing. And I was talking earlier with one of the staff, and she said, this could be something you plug in when you're just not getting across something you want to get across. You may try this. It may be something you want to use routinely. I'm not going to spend any time trying to direct you or instruct you, because I probably couldn't do it anyway, as to how you should do this in your respective disciplines. It crosses a lot of disciplines, and I'll give you some examples of that right now. I want to give you a paradigm. Let's try that. Good. High-tech audiovisual. This is what I call, I don't know if you can all see that or not. This is what you may want to write this down, although I'll bet you if I take this down, let's try this. This is the paradigm, what I call the one bun. It's simply a rhyming peg word system. One bun, two shoe, three tree, four door, five hive, six stick, seven heaven, eight gate, nine line. Repeat it for me. Anybody? Anybody bold? Give me the one bun. Somebody repeat it 1 through 10. Want to do it?
Try.
Try.
One bun, two shoe, three tree,
Four door.
five hive, six stick, seven heaven, eight gate, nine
Line.
and 10 hen.
Okay, good. With that being in front of her for just what, 30 seconds, not even that, you knocked it right off. One bun, I'm going to do it again. One bun, two shoe, three tree, four door, five hive, six stick, seven heaven, eight gate, nine line, 10 hen. Now, that's an extremely important paradigm, and I'm going to give you some examples of that in a minute. Now, I'll give you one example right now. When I was back here working with the athletes, some football players that Dustin Swanson called me back to work with. This was a year ago in December before final exams, or late November, I forget. One of the kids was having trouble in a business class. And in that business class, it was a beginning business class. And I'd never heard of this before, and I haven't been able to find it on the internet since. But in that business class, there was a concept called Mohs pyramid. And it had to do with 9 criteria that you had to satisfy if you were going to be successful in starting a new business. And there were 9 of them. And this gentleman I was working with had to remember those. Now granted, there might only be 1 or 2 questions on a test or quiz that reference that, but that's 1 or 2 you miss or 1 or 2 you get. If you can get them easy, why not get them, okay? The first item on Mohs pyramid, and I remember this because it was fun working with this guy, the first item was if you were going to start a business, the business had to have a real sense of reality. It had to grab you. It had to be real. And so obviously 1 is bun. Now, important to remember, some of you may be thinking that bun refers to those little baguettes or things in the deli. That's the common description of bun. However, you can expand that any way you want. When I was working with this young guy, I said, do you have a girlfriend? You can see where I'm going with this, as he could. And he said, oh yeah, you've been with her quite a while. I said, does she have nice buns? He said, yeah. And I said, are they real? He said, oh yeah. We didn't go any further with that. He will not forget for the rest of his days what that one is. When we got to 9 had to do with if you're going to start a business, your employees, you have to be able to listen to everybody in the room. You have to hear what everybody says. And he said to me, I can't deal 9 line. I'm having trouble remembering that combination. So I said, okay, do you like wine? Yeah, I like wine. 9 wine was his paradigm. Okay, that's what he decided to use. And so he remembered 9 wine. And I said, well, what does that suggest to you? And all of a sudden he broke into this big cheeky grin and he said, well, I'll tell you exactly what he said. He said, shit, man, you drink enough wine, you don't care what anybody says. You're going to listen to them all. Hearing all the voices in the room. Now that's just crap. But he will not forget that. He won't forget that. I'm going to give you a little bit of a paradigm earlier that deals with my name, okay? I should have told you to take it down, but do so now, and by the time I get to it, maybe it'll be effective. Okay, now that's an example, and I bet I could go across this room right now. I won't, but I could call on any one of you, and I'll bet every one of you could give me 1 bun, 2 shoe, 3 treat, right down through the list. Okay? Okay. Now, there's a lot of silly stuff that I could tell you about, but I'll just give you one, just a real quick one. I'm not going to go through it this is a different kind of a presentation because I didn't want the staff to have to go comatose on me from having heard this the first time on Tuesday. So I've changed up some things in here. But I'm going to do one thing real quickly. I did a longer version of this the first time. How many of you know the name of the structure in your brain that is responsible for both short and long-term memory? Good. There are no biologists in here. One in the back? All right, good man. All right, if you don't know it, I'm going to tell it to you. Well, I'm not going to tell it to you. I'm going to describe it to you, and you'll never forget it for as long as you live. And I'm not going to go through the long story, but I'm going to just give you a real short capsule, but you'll still remember it. If you're sitting on the street at one of the major intersections at this university, and you're sitting there and you hear a crunching sound and you look over, and there is a hippopotamus walking past your car onto the campus, and you're startled by it, you shouldn't be. Because Indiana University is a center of education. It's where people go to get educated, to improve their memories, and to remember things. Hippopotamus, pachyderm. Like the elephant, a pachyderm. What do you know about pachyderms? Tremendous memory, tremendous intellect. It will occur to you, as it occurs to me, that the hippopotamus goes onto the Indiana University campus to increase his memory. So clearly, Indiana University is the hippocampus. Right? That's the Latin name for the structure, 2 of them, one on each side of the temporal lobes, wherein memory resides, the hippocampus. Now you will be in the rest home trying to get the oatmeal in your mouth at 95 years old, and you will still be able to remember the hippocampus because I made up some crap to teach it to you. If I gave it to you as a Latin term referencing Greek seahorses in your brain, you would not remember it. Okay? That's an example. Now I want to give you one that I didn't write, but it comes right out of a book. Have any of you read the book Moonwalking with Einstein by Joshua Foer? It was written in 2011. Joshua Foer was a reporter who went to the National Memory Championship. There's an International Memory Championship, where all of those nations compete. It's a big deal. There are a lot of geeky people that go to that, and they focus obviously pretty hard. They wear earmuffs, they have blinders on, they are so focused in what they do. Here's what Joshua Foer used. He just includes in his book what he used to remember the first 13 cards that he turned in the deck. Now, this is a little bit dicey, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit on it, but this is pure crap. I mean, this is all in Joshua Foer's mind now, okay? This is what he wrote in his book. Dom DeLuise, celebrity fat man, 5 of clubs, has been implicated in the following unseemly acts in my mind's eye. He has hocked a fat globule of spittle, 9 of clubs, on Albert Einstein's white mane, 3 of diamonds, and delivered a devastating karate kick, 5 of spades, to the groin of Pope Benedict XVI, 6 of diamonds. Michael Jackson, king of hearts, has engaged in behavior bizarre even for him. He has defecated, 2 of clubs, on a salmon burger, king of clubs, and captured his flatulence, queen of clubs, in a balloon, 6 of spades. Rhea Perlman, diminutive Cheers bartendress and queen of spades, has been caught cavorting with the 7'7" Sudanese basketball star Manute Bol, 7 of clubs. In a highly explicit, and in this case anatomically improbable, 2-digit act of Congress, 3 of clubs. There's 13 cards referenced in that. And that's only 13 of 52. But what he did is he started, as he turned the cards, the first stuff that came into his mind, vulgar or not, he used in weaving a story so that when he had turned the 52nd card, the story was in his mind and he could repeat it with each of the respective card designations very clear in his mind. Now I want to suggest to you something that I think I know, but I'm not certain. And there's a reason I want to suggest this to you. There are a couple of parts to this story where what is written here and I just read to you is probably not what he thought at the time he was using this paradigm. And here they are. When he references, now this gets a little dicey, so this is what's really going on here. When he references a kick to the groin of Pope Benedict, he probably didn't in his mind say the word groin. He used the more colloquial term for a specific area. When he said Michael Jackson defecated, probably not the word he used in his mind's eye. He used the more common one that you and I would probably think of. It's a lot shorter, it's a lot sharper, a lot more explicit. Also, when he used the word captured his flatulence, not likely. Probably used another word in his mind's eye. And also when he referenced capturing the flatulence in a balloon, well, it could look like a balloon possibly, but it's probably not a balloon. Now, why would he choose the dicey words? Any idea? Anybody? You all know why.
Yeah, they're sharper, they stick in your mind.
Yeah, there's a kind of a cringe. I mean, if I said the words out loud, which I've chosen not to, there would be someone here who would consider that inappropriate. There'd be a little recoil reaction to that, and justifiably so. But when you're trying to make up crap, there is what I call a cringe factor. If you can cause yourself a little bit of an emotional or physical or discomfort, you're going to lock on that information far better than if you use the terms that he wrote in the book. Obviously, he wrote the terms in the book that way so as not to offend people, but knowing about this process, and the book doesn't detail very much of how you do this, it just gives his process, several chapters of what he went through to get to the championship and win it. So, now, with that, I want to give you an opportunity. We've talked about it. Anybody want to volunteer the one bun? I'll bet you could do it.
One bun, 2 shoe, 3 tree, 4 door, 5 hive, 6 sticks, 7 heaven, 8
It's like a door.
8 gate, 9 fine, 9 line, 10 hen.
Yeah. And he said fine, usually nouns work best. Objects work best that you can attach things to. Okay. 1 bun, 2 shoe, 3 tree, 4 door, 5 hive, 6 7 heaven, 8 gate, 9 line, 10 hen. 9 is line or wine, whatever works for you. And by the way, If you want to make up your own 1 through 10, you can, but I'll suggest to you that probably you're better off to go with the one that I just gave you. There's no reason not to, and you've heard it first this way. It's kind of like a multiple choice test when you have there are 4 foils to a multiple choice and you don't know what it is, but you think that B might be the one, go with B. The research says that your first intuitive response is the right one, more often than not. Same here. You've heard one bun this way, probably going to remember it that way. You may make a change like from line to wine or whatever, but okay. All right, now here's what I'd like to do. And I'm going to need your participation on this. So if you've been sleepwalking so far, heads up and listen, because you're going to use this right now. By the way, when I work with the athletes, what I typically do with this one bun is I'll have someone stand behind me, and they'll be with a magic marker on the whiteboard, and I'll ask the athletes one at a time to give me an item that they're going to pick up on Saturday morning when they go shopping, hardware store, wherever they go, Home Depot, Walgreens, drugs, whatever it is. So they give me 1 through 10, and then I repeat them back to them, 1 through 10, then I go 10 through 1, and they give me the numbers, and I tell them exactly what they are. What I also tell them, which is honest truth, is when I do this with larger groups, or with larger time frames, I should say, with groups. I was in TIA, did a workshop for TIAA CREP in San Francisco and one in Denver. I did 30 items. 30 items exact same way. You're not going to believe this, but with this kind of a process, 30 is exactly as easy to do as 10. 40 would be just as easy. The number isn't relevant. The lock-in process is. All right, here's what it is. What is one thing that all of you can recognize by looking at me? Just physically looking at me, what do all of you know about me? Anybody? Be bold. I won't take offense. What do you know? Just look at me. Yeah, what do you know?
Wear a blue shirt.
I don't know. Something more personal than that. Be bold. Be bold.
You're older than me?
I'm old. I am old. In fact, with you young people in here, I could qualify as Methuselah. I am old, okay? How old am I? How old am I?
67.
67? Anybody else want to take a shot? What do you think? Yeah, leaning on your finger there. What do you think?
65.
Thank you. No, you're both wrong. I'm really old, okay? Now, what I also know is I've endeared myself so much to you people today that all of you will want to celebrate my birthday when it arrives. But first of all, you need to know how old I am. So I'm going to tell you how old I am, but I'm not really going to tell you. I'm going to tell you by virtue of the one bun paradigm, okay? Here's the paradigm. There is a bun. I mean a real bun now. This is one from the Safeway store or wherever. But this bun has been around in the sun, sitting around and oozing. It's gotten rotten and it's really raunchy looking. It's turning green and it's oozing. This bun is hanging, if you can picture this, it's so oozy, it's hanging on a line, all right? This line is attached, if you can picture it, to a door. The bun is hanging on the line attached to the door. And the unfortunate thing is that a nice young woman walks through the door, opens the door, is stepping forward, and the bun ooze splashes down onto her shoe. Now, the arithmetically challenged may want to use a pencil and paper. This is 2012. How old am I? We got the bun hanging on the line, attached to the door, dripping on the shoe. What year was I born? What? 1942, which makes me how old? Come on. Huh?
69 or
70. Okay, good. You were close. You're close. Okay, now you got the year. See, some people would think that numbers don't work well with this emotional crap stuff, but they do. Well, here's another thing. Now I want you to be able to have the exact day so that I get the cards on time. So here's the other paradigm. When I was a kid and you walk through a cow pasture, and I spent some time in Indiana at that time walking through cow pastures, there are these objects in the cow pasture which we referenced as, well, cow plops. They're numerous and you have to watch where you're going. Here's what I want you to visualize. Out there in the pasture, there is a chocolate bun, a big one, an expansive chocolate bun. And it's out there amongst the cow plops. And you want to find it. This is the way you can identify it. Sticking right in the middle of that bun is a 6-foot-long willow stick, sharpened at both ends, stuck in the middle of the cow plop, pointing straight up to heaven. What month and what day? A little louder. January? Well, first of all, what's the date, the day? Nobody's got it? We got it. 7. Okay. There's a bun, okay, which is what?
1.
There's the stick. The stick, first of all, I think I got the paradigm a little mixed up for you. The stick represents 6, which is the month, and the 1-7 is the 17, June 17. So I probably presented it in a more confused way for you. But the point is you can attach and associate numbers very easily with this process, okay? Now, one last thing I want to say to you is do any of you remember my name? First name? Last name? Good. Tomorrow you won't remember that, unless you think of me as bearing the very striking resemblance as I do to Michael Jordan. Jordan, by the way, is actually in Italian. This is true. This isn't crap. Jordan in Italian is Giordano. Okay? So if you think of me as a very wealthy person, I'm rich. And then if you think of me as looking like Michael Jordan, as I clearly do, you'll get Jordan, Giordano. And I was talking to Lori. She said she was having trouble remembering how to get the O on the end of Jordan. And all of a sudden, back to the age thing again, she remembered I'm older than Michael Jordan. O, older. So I'm rich, I'm Jordan, I'm older. Richard Jordan O. Okay? Now, if this all seems a little bizarre to you, it truly is, and it's intended to be that. But I'll guarantee you that you can use this yourselves, and if you use it yourselves, you will find ways to inculcate it in your work with the athletes, because believe me, the 3 things that they are, if they're not linguistic, they're emotional, they're visual, and they're very physical. If they can realize that they can take the traits that make them successful in their field of play into a classroom context, you'll go on a long way to empowering them with things they already have and probably don't know that they can use. So that really is what this is all about, is just one more tool that you might be able to use on some occasions. Some of you will use it more than others. It's very powerful in the sciences, where there's so much terminology. You can tie all kinds of stuff together with this and remember it very easily over long periods of time. So give it a shot and try it. I think you'll find that it does work, not only for you, but it may just help those athletes that are struggling with certain things that they just need to get past so they can really get on to what they need to do. Okay? Thank you. I really enjoyed talking with you.